What's going on, guys? My name is Derek. Welcome to my channel, Superbike Life. Today we are back with my track BMW S1000RR, and today we're going to be installing our driven block-off plates as well as our Woodcraft clip-ons right after this. Welcome back, guys. So the first thing you'll want to do is you want to get your fairings out of the way. Particularly if we're going to start doing the driven block-off plates, our emissions block-off plates, you're going to want to get both fairings. You want to get your front fairing off, and we're eventually going to take off this airbox cover and the tank as well. But right now we're going to work on the clip-ons, which means we need to get the top triple tree off that we reinstalled the other day after doing our Alpha Racing switches. We're going to take that off. We're going to get everything off of the clip-ons, and then they should just slide up and off. So again, I'm going to go and grab, I believe this is a 36 millimeter socket that's required to take the center net off, and then we can work on the other items. Be right back. So we get our center nut out of the way. Now, before we go any further, the reason you want to replace your standard clip-ons with these Woodcraft or aftermarket race type clip-ons, a couple of reasons why. They're slightly lighter. Number two, you'll notice that the mounting points for your Woodcraft clip-on is two parts. So you got the rod here, and then you got your mounting point here. For your standard clip-ons, they're all one piece. So if you crash and they bend or they break, you have to replace the entire thing. Whereas with your Woodcraft items, if you crash and you bend the rod or you snap off this, you can either replace the entire clip-on handle, or you can just replace the mounting point. So that makes them really, really nice for crashing. Now, I don't plan on crashing, but when you're racing doing track days, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I've been fortunate enough to not crash yet. But those are some of the reasons you want to upgrade. Also, you can also change the angle. So sometimes, I'll do over here. Sometimes you may want the angle a little bit more down. You might want it backwards, forwards, a little bit more up, what have you. And when you use aftermarket clip-ons, you can get that range of motion or adjustment. These come in several different angles, so whether it's 60 degrees or 40, whatever it is, you can order these to your taste. So again, I have a 45 mil, I have a T45 Torx bit with an extension. And this is a T30 to take off the brake fluid reservoir clamp. Hopefully I won't drop it today. It's amazing when you drop screws on something as simple as a motorcycle, they still tend to disappear on you. My brother and I were working on his Ducati 1199R the other day. He dropped a screw. We couldn't find it for 30 minutes. We literally had to take the bike off stands and shake the damn thing before it fell out. We literally couldn't find it. Triple clamps are loose, so again, we're going to just work this off. And we'll set this aside. Now it's just a matter of taking all of this crap off the clip-on. So we're going to start by removing the bolt, on our clutch lever. Then we'll loosen up the same T30s over here on our brake lever. So now I need to remove my my brake guard here, And that looks like about a 5mm Allen. Okay. So now for our throttle, it looks like about a T25 Torx. All right. So that's all loosened up. And now we have to loosen up and remove our switch. Just don't run over the camera.
I'll try really hard not to. Not really, but
All right. Loosen up both clip-ons. So we've loosened up both clip-ons, and we've loosened up our on-off switch. We've loosened up the throttle. We have not loosened up this left control switch yet. We'll get that in a minute, but we will lift this one up and off. And now we can flip it over, and we can finish getting to the screws on the bottom to remove the switch. Okay. Set that there. Now we can take the top off. And now we have exposed to the screw on the bottom that holds our throttle on. And then our clip-on just slides right out. And again, you can see here how it's all one piece. So if this was to break or bend, you're screwed here. If this was to break or bend, you're screwed here. Whereas if this was to break or bend, you could replace the offending piece. So. All right, so while we were waiting for my A6000 to cool off, I just went ahead and slipped the throttle tube back on, put the screw in it, and slipped the Woodcraft slip-on over the right fork tube. So now what we're going to do is we're going to reinstall our switch. So we just do everything in reverse order. And now we'll need to get this where we want it. Get our brake lever on here. Okay. Okay, so our right side clip-on is all set. Once we put our triple tree back on, we'll be able to mount our brake reservoir, but everything else is all set. Once we get, again, the triple tree back on, we'll be able to adjust this forward and back, front, so forth, to get it exactly where I want. So let's move on over here to the left side. All right, so we're over here on the left side. On the left side, unlike on the right side, I have a large bar end slider. So we'll need to get a really large Allen and remove that. Okay, pop that off. Set it aside. We already have our clutch lever removed. So I'm going to slide this up and off. Okay. So underneath, underneath your grip, you have your T15, it looks like. So we'll unscrew that. Okay. And off it comes. Go. Got our hole lined up again. I'm down here doing all this work. My brother's upstairs watching Power. Thanks, June. Anyway, my brother's pretty cool. I like to give him a hard time. But we both share a passion for motorcycles, which is always cool. All right, so we have our left side switch on. So now we're just gonna, actually I'm gonna loosen these up. Okay, so slide that over. And now we are going to put on our clutch lever. All right, so now those are on there. Now we can put our triple tree back on. Why I always do that. Now, if you have a top triple tree clamp that you're really worried about marring, particularly even with a rubber mallet, you can cover this with something, maybe a small block of wood or some towels or what have you, but we're not going to hit it very hard. We just want to tap it down until it seats. Now we put our center net back on. I'm just going to make it snug. Now we can start to get these sort of where we want them. Get our brake fluid reservoir back in position here. Okay. So I'm going to move this in a little bit. Okay, right now that's good. I still need to adjust forward back, but now we'll do the same thing here. Now I've only tightened one of the four, just so I can start to rotate it and get it where I want it. I'm going to do the same over here. I'm just going to tighten up one. Or I won't even tighten it, just snug it, just so it'll stop moving. All right. And now I can start to make final adjustments. I think that's good right about there. That feels good, and I'll snug them up there. Okay, so let's move on to removing the tank and this airbox cover, and we can get to the block-off plates. So we're over here by the tank, and as you can see, I've removed the tail section. In order to get to these, the tank rear mounting location, I have to remove my tail section. So now I'm going to grab my T25 and remove this upper airbox cover / tank cover. Now I'm going to grab a T30 and remove the tank side bolts. Now I made this bracket here for the rear tail section. I have it bolted in two places. So there are two T30 bolts that go down this way, and then one large bolt, that's the stock mounting bolts that go the other way. The nice thing is that I rarely have to take those off. I just remove the 4 mounting bolts that are mounted to the subframe, and then the whole thing comes up and out. Remove the switches here. I don't have to literally unplug them, just have to remove them off the bracket. Remove our vent tubes. Now the tank could come up and I can disconnect the electrical components as well as the fuel line. And the other, we're disconnected. Okay, so I can lift it up and off, and we'll set this aside. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, we need to get our ECU out of the way that we can get to our air box. Yeah. So I'm gonna grab my T25. Remove that screw. Remove this electrical connector from the harness. And now our ECU swings up and out of the way. I am going to disconnect this one here. Move that up and out of the way. Okay. Comes up and off. Put this in my back pocket. Like that, and our air filter comes up and out. Actually, our K&N looks pretty good. With the air filter removed and the ECU out of the way, we can clearly see the top of our cylinder head. And I'm going to point out right here, we're going to remove this component and block that off. And then this component over here, excuse me, and then this one over here and block that off. We'll be able to move this entire rail, and then we're going to block off the side here to complete our emissions ectomy. So my batteries in both cameras are about to die, so see you guys in what will seem like a couple of seconds, but it'll be a few hours. Welcome back. Batteries are partially charged, so we're going to start to remove the rail. Loosen that side. Hopefully you guys can see this. I set up this camera in a way that hopefully you can, but if not, well. This allows us to remove the entire air system that I can't remember its official name, but basically it pumps air into the air box and into your exhaust system for better emissions and burning of unspent fuel and all those other things. But on a track bike, we don't need emission stuff. Although environmentalists would say differently. All right, so we move those out, pop out the rail. Now the trick is getting it out of here. All right, guys, so the air rail is out. Now all we need to do is put in our plugs. So we have two in here and then one on the side, and I'll bring you guys in closer to see that. But I removed the air rail, and as you can see, I cut the piece off. Otherwise, I had to remove the air box, which means removing the fuel rail and getting all this, and I didn't want to do that. I'm running out of battery, and I'm running out of light, and I'm not available tomorrow, and I didn't want to do this over the course of 2 or 3 days. So I cut it off because I have no intention of reusing this. But you can see here there are some O-rings. There we go. There's some O-rings here and one here. We're going to take those off and reuse those on our plugs. So here are our driven block-off plugs. And basically we just drop the O-rings on them like so, and then screw them in place. Screw. Now I will say again, this is made a lot easier if you remove this air box. Okay, now we just have to tighten them down. First do that by hand. So now, let me grab the camera off the tripod, bring you in here, and show you what we've done. All right, guys, so if you remember the last shot, there was a rail that ran across here. So basically, we put in this plug here, and get this wire out of the way, and we put in that plug there. Allowed us to take that entire rail out, block those off. Now, if I come over here to the right side of the bike, this is where that other plug goes, the hose that I cut. It runs up to here, and this is actually, I believe it's a pump, and there's an electrical connection. I've actually clipped it off and tied it, zip tied it here, because we won't need that. Some block-off kits actually have you remove this and just plug, remove this whole thing and plug that completely. But this kit comes with this boot, so basically we're just going to pop the boot over here and zip tie it and call it a day. So I'm just going to take this block off here, pop it over, grab a zip tie, and clip it off. Okay, so now we're done here. We just need to reinstall everything in reverse order. No need for me to record that, so I'll see you guys in just a second. Well, that is a wrap for this episode, guys, and my BMW S1000RR track bike build. We got our driven block-off plates installed and got all the emissions control items finally removed from the bike. And we got our Woodcraft clip-ons installed as well. Now, a couple of things that we couldn't get done or reinstalled. So if you remember, on the left-hand side, we removed our RNG bar end slider. I could not reinstall that. So the type that I have is a screw-in. So the stock bars are threaded on the inside where the Woodcraft bars are not. So I'll take care of that once I get back to Phoenix. And similarly, on the right side, I had a brake lever guard. Again, it was threaded on the stock clip-ons, whereas the Woodcraft are not threaded. So once I get home, I'll get the press-in ones. You screw in and they widen and press against the side. I'll take care of those once I get back to Phoenix. Otherwise, this is a wrap. I'm Derek, ESBKLife. You guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, guys, take care.